The wind howled like a wild animal outside the small wooden cabin. Inside, 23-year-old Maya held her 6-month-old daughter Lily close to her chest. The baby's soft whimpers filled the cold air as Maya wrapped another blanket around them both. The power had gone out 3 hours ago. Maya watched helplessly as the digital clock on the microwave went dark, taking with it her last connection to the outside world. Her phone had died an hour later, and the landline was nothing but static. She was completely cut off from everything and everyone. Maya walked to the kitchen and opened the refrigerator door. The inside light didn't come on. She felt around in the darkness and her heart sank. The baby formula she had prepared earlier was already getting warm. Without power, it would spoil soon. She grabbed the container and shook it gently. There wasn't much left anyway. She checked the pantry next, moving her hands along the shelves like a blind person. Her fingers found 2 cans of baby formula. That was it. Everything else required cooking or refrigeration. Maya's own stomach growled, but that didn't matter right now. Lily needed to eat, and Maya wasn't sure how long this storm would last. The nearest town was 20 miles away down a winding mountain road. On a good day, it was a challenging drive. In this weather, with snow piling up fast, it might as well have been on another planet. Maya had never felt so alone in her life. She thought about her husband Alex, somewhere in Afghanistan, probably not even knowing about the storm back home. He had been gone for 8 months now, and she had learned to handle most things on her own, but this was different. This felt dangerous. Maya sat down in the old rocking chair by the window and tried to feed Lily the last of the warm formula. The baby drank eagerly, her tiny hands gripping the bottle. Maya watched the snow pile up against the glass. It was coming down so hard she couldn't see the trees that were just 20 feet away. The cabin grew colder by the hour. Maya had started a fire in the old stone fireplace, but it wasn't enough to heat the whole space. She dragged their mattress into the living room and set up a little nest near the fireplace. She changed Lily's diaper and dressed her in 2 sleepers to keep her warm. As the night went on, Maya found herself calculating and recalculating 2 cans of formula. If she mixed them carefully and stretched them out, maybe they would last until tomorrow evening. But what if the storm didn't stop? What if the roads weren't cleared for days? She tried not to think about the stories she had heard. People getting snowed in for weeks. Search and rescue teams unable to reach remote areas. Maya had always thought those stories happened to other people, not to a young mother just trying to make it until her husband came home. Lily started crying again around midnight. This wasn't her normal fussy cry. This was different, weaker. Maya prepared another bottle, using less powder to make it last longer. She knew it wasn't enough nutrition, but it was all she had. The fire was burning low. Maya wrapped Lily in every blanket she could find and stepped outside to grab more wood from the pile. The cold hit her like a slap. Snow stung her face and the wind nearly knocked her over. She grabbed as much wood as she could carry and stumbled. Back inside, her hands shook as she built up the fire. Whether from cold or fear, she wasn't sure. Probably both. She sat back down with Lily and tried to stay calm. Babies could sense when their mothers were scared. And Maya didn't want to make things worse. She started talking to Lily in a soft voice, telling her stories about her daddy and about the summer when they would go to the lake together. She talked about anything she could think of to keep her own mind from wandering to dark places. The storm showed no signs of stopping. If anything, it seemed to be getting worse. Maya watched the snow pile higher against the windows and wondered if anyone even knew they were here. The cabin was set back from the main road, hidden by trees. Even if someone drove by, they might not see it. Maya made a decision. Tomorrow, if the storm didn't break, she would bundle up Lily and try to walk to the main road. It was dangerous, but staying here with no food was dangerous too. At least on the road, there was a chance someone might find them. She kissed Lily's forehead and whispered a prayer. She wasn't particularly religious, but desperate times called for desperate measures. She prayed for the storm to stop. She prayed for someone to find them. She prayed for her husband, wherever he was, hoping he was safe and warm. As Lily finally fell asleep in her arms, Maya stared into the fire and tried to stay hopeful. They had made it through one night. They could make it through another. They had to. Maya had just finished feeding Lily the last bottle when she heard it. 3 slow, deliberate knocks on the front door. She froze, holding Lily close to her chest. Her heart started pounding so hard she was sure whoever was outside could hear. Who would be out in weather like this? The storm was still raging, and it was almost 10 at night. Maya's mind raced through possibilities, none of them good. She had heard stories about people taking advantage of storms, knowing folks were isolated and vulnerable. The knocking came again, a little louder this time. Maya crept toward the window, staying low and keeping away from the glass. She pulled back just a corner of the curtain and peered outside. Through the swirling snow, she could make out a tall figure standing on her porch. The person was wearing a heavy coat and a wide-brimmed hat. In their arms, they seemed to be carrying something. "Hello?" a man's voice called out. "Is anyone home? I saw your cabin was dark and wanted to make sure you folks were okay." Maya's grip tightened on Lily. The voice sounded genuine. Concerned even, but she had watched enough news to know that bad people could sound nice too. She stayed silent, hoping he would just go away. "Ma'am, I know you're probably scared," the voice continued. "My name is Ben Sullivan. I live about 2 miles up the road at the Triple S Ranch. I was checking on neighbors because of the storm." Maya's mind raced. She had heard of the Triple S Ranch. The mailman had mentioned it once when he was delivering packages. He said the owner was a decent man who kept to himself but helped folks when they needed it. "I can see smoke from your chimney, so I know someone's home," Ben called out. "I brought some supplies. Food and baby formula. I noticed the baby clothes on your clothesline a few weeks back." Maya's breath caught. Baby formula. He had baby formula. Lily stirred in her arms, making soft, hungry sounds even though she had just eaten. The bottle hadn't been enough, and Maya knew it. She moved closer to the door but didn't open it yet. "How do I know you're telling the truth?" she called out, her voice shaking. "You don't," Ben replied honestly. "But ma'am, I've got a generator in my truck along with enough food to last you a few days. That little one sounds hungry, and this storm isn't going to let up anytime soon." Maya looked down at Lily, who was starting to fuss again. She was down to half a can of formula powder, and it would have to last until who knows when. The baby needed proper nutrition, not watered-down formula. "I'm going to leave some things on your porch," Ben said. "You don't have to let me in. Just take a look through the window when I step back." Maya heard footsteps moving around on the wooden porch, then the sound of items being set down. After a few minutes, Ben's voice came again, but from farther away. "I'm by my truck now. Check the porch." Maya crept back to the window and looked. Out on her porch sat 2 large bags and what looked like a small machine. Even through the storm, she could see that one of the bags had baby bottles and formula containers sticking out of the top. Her stomach growled loudly, reminding her that she hadn't eaten anything substantial in almost 24 hours. She had been giving what little food they had to Lily, stretching her own meals to make sure the baby ate first. "Why are you helping me?" Maya called out through the door. There was a long pause. When Ben spoke again, his voice was quieter, sadder somehow. "Because I know what it's like to be scared and alone with a baby. I know what it's like to feel like the whole world has forgotten about you." Something in his tone made Maya's heart ache. This wasn't the voice of someone trying to trick her. This was the voice of someone who had been where she was, someone who understood. Maya took a deep breath and made a decision that would change everything. She unlocked the door and opened it just a crack, keeping the chain latch secure. Through the gap, she could see Ben standing by a pickup truck, his hands visible and empty. "The generator will get your power back on," he called out. "At least enough to keep the baby's formula cold and maybe run a space heater." Maya looked at the supplies on her porch, then back at Ben. Snow was piling up on his hat and shoulders. He had to be freezing, but he wasn't pushing to come inside. He was letting her make the choice. Lily let out a weak cry, and Maya felt her resolve crumble. Her baby needed help, and this man was offering it with no strings attached. Sometimes you had to trust in the kindness of strangers. especially when those strangers might be the answer to your prayers. Maya closed the door, unlatched the chain, and opened it wide. Please, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Comin' out of the cold. Ben stamped the snow off his boots before stepping inside, his arms full of supplies. Maya noticed how he moved carefully, slowly, like he understood that she was still nervous. He was taller than she had expected, probably in his mid-30s, with kind eyes that seemed tired around the edges. Thank you, Maya whispered, closing the door behind him. The warmth from the fireplace seemed to embrace him as he stood there, melting snow dripping from his coat onto the wooden floor. Let me get this generator set up first, Ben said, setting down the bags gently. Your little one needs warm formula. And you both need heat. Maya watched as he worked, noting how he seemed to know exactly what he was doing. Within 20 minutes, he had the small generator running outside and connected to the cabin. Suddenly, lights flickered on, and Maya heard the familiar hum of the refrigerator starting up again. There we go, Ben said, brushing snow from his hands. That should keep things running for a few days. Maya felt tears prick her eyes. She hadn't realized how much the darkness had been affecting her until she had light again. I don't know how to thank you. No need, Ben replied, kneeling down to unpack the bags. Maya watched in amazement as he pulled out can after can of baby formula, jars of baby food, diapers, and even some toys. From the second bag came bread, soup, crackers, fruit, and other foods that didn't need much preparation, but what struck Maya most was how Ben handled everything. When Lily started crying, he didn't flinch or look annoyed like some people did around babies. Instead, he glanced over with the kind of attention that suggested he knew something about caring for little ones. She's hungry, Maya said, feeling embarrassed about stating the obvious. May I? Ben asked, gesturing toward the kitchen. I can warm up a proper bottle for her. Maya hesitated for just a moment, then nodded. She followed him to the kitchen and watched as he prepared the formula with practiced hands. He tested the temperature on his wrist, just like Maya did, checking to make sure it wasn't too hot. You know about babies, Maya observed. Ben's face grew quiet as he finished preparing the bottle. I had a son once, he said softly. His name was Tommy. He would have been about 3 years old now. The past tense wasn't lost on Maya. She felt her heart squeeze with sympathy. I'm sorry. Ben handed her the bottle and watched as she began feeding Lily. Car accident 2 years ago. My wife Rachel and Tommy were coming home from visiting her sister. Roads were icy. He paused, watching Lily drink eagerly. I wasn't with them. I was working late at the ranch, fixing fence posts that could have waited another day. Maya didn't know what to say. She had been so worried about her own problems that she hadn't considered what kind of pain might drive someone to venture out in a storm to help strangers. After that, I kind of shut down for a while, Ben continued, settling into a chair across. From her, stopped talking to people, stopped going to town unless I had to. The ranch became my whole world. What changed? Maya asked gently. Ben smiled sadly. About 6 months ago, I was driving to town for supplies and I saw you hanging baby clothes on the line outside. It was the first time in 2 years that seeing baby things didn't make me want to run away. Instead, I found myself wondering about you and your little girl. Whether you had family nearby, whether someone was taking care of you. Maya felt a lump form in her throat. She thought about all those lonely days when she felt like no one in the world cared whether she and Lily existed. I started keeping an eye on the place, Ben admitted. Not in a creepy way, he added quickly. Just checking to make sure your lights were on at night, that your car was in the driveway. When I didn't see any lights tonight, I got worried. My husband is deployed, Maya said. He's been gone 8 months. Sometimes I feel like I'm the only person left in the world. I know that feeling, Ben said. It's like being underwater, where everything is muffled and far away. They sat in comfortable silence for a few minutes, watching Lily finish her bottle. The baby's eyes were getting heavy, her belly finally full for the first time in hours. She's beautiful, Ben said. How old? 6 months next week, Maya replied. Her name is Lily. Lily, Ben repeated, and Maya noticed how gently he said it, like the name meant something to him. As if reading her thoughts, Ben explained. Rachel loved Lila. She planted them all around our house. Every spring, the whole yard would be full of white and pink lilac. Maya felt the weight of his loss and his kindness. This man, who had every reason to be bitter about life, was instead sitting in her kitchen, making sure her baby had enough to eat. Ben, she said quietly, I don't think you just happened to check on me tonight. I think you saved our lives. Ben looked down at his hands. Maybe we saved each other. Outside, the storm continued to rage, but inside the small cabin, too lonely. People had found something they didn't even know they were looking for. As Maya rocked Lily to sleep, she realized that sometimes angels don't have wings. Sometimes they just have pickup trucks and kind hearts. The storm lasted 3 days. During that time, Ben became as much a part of the cabin as the furniture itself. On the first morning, Maya woke up to the smell of coffee and found Ben sitting by the fireplace, feeding wood into the flames. He had slept on the couch, and Maya noticed he had kept the fire going all night. I hope you don't mind, he said when he saw her. I made coffee, figured we both could use some. Maya accepted the warm mug gratefully. She couldn't remember the last time someone had made coffee for her. You didn't have to stay. Roads are completely blocked, Ben replied. Even if I wanted to leave, my truck isn't going anywhere until this stops. But Maya sensed it was more than that. There was something peaceful about Ben's presence that she hadn't expected. He didn't try to fill every silence with conversation, and he seemed to understand that she needed space to process everything that had happened. When Lily woke up crying, Ben didn't immediately offer to help like some people did. Instead, he waited to see what Maya needed, stepping in only when she looked overwhelmed. He seemed to understand the balance between helping and taking over. You're good with her, Maya observed as Ben gently bounced Lily while Maya prepared breakfast. Babies are honest, Ben said, looking down at Lily with a soft expression. They don't pretend to feel things they don't feel. If they're happy, you know it. If they're scared or hungry or tired, you know that too. Maya watched him interact with her daughter and felt something shift in her chest. Lily, who was usually shy around strangers, seemed completely comfortable with Ben. She grabbed at his fingers and made happy gurgling sounds when he talked to her. As the second day wore on, they began sharing more stories. Maya told Ben about Alex, about how they had met in college and gotten married young. She talked about the loneliness of military life, the constant worry, the feeling of putting her own life on hold. I love him, Maya said, as they sat by the fire that evening, Lily asleep between them. But sometimes I wonder who I am when he's not here. I feel like I disappear. Ben understood that feeling better than most. After Rachel died, I realized I had built my whole identity around being someone's husband and father. When they were gone, I didn't know who Ben was supposed to be. How did you figure it out? Ben was quiet for a long time. I'm still working on it, he admitted. But helping you and Lily this week, it's the first time in 2 years that I felt like myself again. Maya felt a warmth spread through her that had nothing to do with the fire. There was something healing about being around someone who understood loss, who didn't expect her to be grateful for every moment or pretend that being alone wasn't hard. On the third day, they worked together to maintain the cabin like they had been doing it for years. Ben showed Maya how to properly bank the fire so it would burn longer, and Maya taught him how to fold the tiny baby clothes that seemed to multiply overnight. Alex doesn't know how to do any of this stuff, Maya said, holding up one of Lily's impossibly small socks. He tries, but he gets frustrated when she cries. It's not about knowing how, Ben said. It's about staying calm when everything feels chaotic. Some people have to learn that the hard way. Maya wondered what Alex would think of Ben, whether he would see him as a threat or a blessing. She tried not to think about how easy it was to talk to Ben, how he listened without trying to fix everything, how he made her feel capable instead of helpless. That evening, as they prepared dinner together, Lily started fussing. Both Maya and Ben reached for her at the same time, their hands touching briefly. Maya felt an electric shock of connection that she tried to ignore. Sorry, Ben said, pulling his hand back. It's okay, Maya replied, but they both knew something had shifted. Later, after Lily was asleep, they sat by the fire talking about their dreams. Maya talked about wanting to go back to school someday, maybe becoming a teacher. Ben talked about expanding his ranch, maybe getting into horse breeding. What did you want to be when you were little? Maya asked. Ben smiled. A hero, he said without embarrassment. I wanted to save people. Maya looked at him across the firelight. I think you got your wish. As the storm finally began to weaken on the third night, Maya felt a strange sadness. Tomorrow, Ben would dig out his truck and go back to his ranch. She would go back to being alone with Lily, waiting for Alex to come home. The thought made her chest feel tight. Thank you, she said as they said goodnight. For everything. Ben paused at the bottom of the stairs leading to the loft where Maya slept. Thank you for letting me help. I forgot what it felt like to be needed. As Maya lay in bed that night, listening to the wind finally calm down, she tried not to think about how much she was going to miss the sound of someone else breathing in the house, the comfort of knowing she wasn't alone. She tried not to think about how safe she had felt, or how Ben's laugh made Lily giggle, or how he had brought light back into their dark little world. But most of all, she tried not to think about how much she didn't want him to leave. The morning after the storm broke, Maya woke up to the sound of engines outside. She looked out the window and saw not just Ben's truck, but two other vehicles in her driveway. An older woman was getting out of a blue pickup, carrying what looked like a casserole dish, while a man in coveralls was unloading tools from the back of a work truck. Looks like the cavalry has arrived, Ben said with a smile as he helped Maya bundle up Lily. The older woman knocked on the door and introduced herself as Helen Chun. She owned the general store in town and had been worried about Maya since the storm started. The man was Carlos Rodriguez, who ran a small engine repair shop and also served as a volunteer with the local emergency response team. We've been trying to get up here since yesterday, Helen explained, settling into Maya's kitchen like she belonged there. Ben called us on his radio this morning and said you might need some help. Maya looked at Ben in surprise. You have a radio? Two-way radio, Ben explained. Most of us out here have them for emergencies. We keep in touch, especially during bad weather. Carlos was already outside, checking the generator and looking at Maya's car. Your battery is dead, he called through the open door. But I brought jumper cables. We'll have you running in no time. Helen had brought enough food to feed a family for a week. She bustled around the kitchen, organizing everything while chatting about the storm and asking Maya dozens of questions about how she and Lily were doing. You know, dear, Helen said as she stocked Maya's refrigerator, we've all been keeping an eye on this place. When Ben told us about a young woman living out here alone with a baby, well, we just wanted to make sure you were okay. Maya felt overwhelmed. I had no idea anyone even knew I was here. Honey, in a community this small, everyone knows everyone, Helen laughed. Mrs. Patterson at the post office mentioned you when your military allotment checks started coming. And Tom at the gas station noticed you buying baby supplies. We've just been waiting for the right time to introduce ourselves. Ben had been quiet during this exchange, but Maya caught him smiling at her surprised expression. Later, when Helen was outside talking to Carlos, Maya cornered him by the fireplace. You planned this, didn't you? She asked. Ben shrugged. I might have mentioned that you could use some friends. Why didn't you tell me about the radio network before? Ben looked down at his hands. Because I wanted you to trust me first. I wanted you to know that I was here to help, not because someone sent me, but because I chose to be here. Maya felt her heart do a little flip. Before she could respond, Helen came back inside with Carlos and another surprise. Maya, I'd like you to meet Dr. Patricia Williams, Helen said, gesturing to a woman in her 50s who had just arrived. She's our local pediatrician. I thought she should take a look at little Lily, just to make sure everything's okay after the storm. Dr. Williams was kind and thorough, examining Lily while explaining everything she was doing. She's perfect, the doctor announced. Healthy weight, good color, hitting all her milestones. You're doing a wonderful job, Maya. Maya felt tears prick her eyes. She hadn't realized how much she had needed to hear that from a professional. Being alone with a baby meant constantly worrying whether she was doing everything right. Now, Dr. Williams continued, I want you to have my number, and Helen's and Carlos's and Ben's. We look out for each other out here, especially our mothers and babies. Carlos came in wiping his hands on a rag. Your car's running fine now. But Maya, that road down to your place gets pretty rough in winter. If you ever need anything, don't hesitate to call. We can always get supplies up here with the four-wheel drives. Helen was writing numbers on a piece of paper and sticking it to Maya's refrigerator. There's a women's group that meets every Tuesday at the community center. Just ladies getting together for coffee and conversation. You should come next week. I don't know, Maya said hesitantly. With Lily and no babysitter? Honey, half the women bring their kids, Helen laughed. It's not fancy. Just friends talking and drinking. Coffee. Sometimes we do crafts or plan community events. Maya looked around at all these people who had appeared in her life like guardian angels. Just yesterday, she thought she and Lily were completely alone in the world. Now, her kitchen was full of neighbors who had been watching out for her all along. There's also a young mothers group, Dr. Williams added. 3 other women in the area with babies around Lily's age. They meet informally, but I think you'd really like them. Ben had been listening to all of this while helping Carlos load tools back into his truck. When he came back inside, Maya pulled him aside. Is this real? She asked quietly. Do communities like this actually exist? Ben nodded. Rural communities are different. We have to depend on each other because we're all we've got. When someone new moves in, especially someone who might need help, we circle the wagons. But I've been here for months. Why now? Ben was quiet for a moment. Because sometimes it takes a crisis to bring people together. And because maybe some of us needed an excuse to start caring about our neighbors again. Maya understood. Ben had been isolating himself since his family died. Helping her had given him a reason to reconnect with his community. In saving her, he had also saved himself. As everyone prepared to leave, Helen hugged Maya tight. You're not alone anymore, dear. You've got family now, whether you know it or not. After they left, Maya and Ben stood in the suddenly quiet cabin. Lily was napping, exhausted from all the attention, and the silence felt different than it had. Before, it wasn't the silence of isolation anymore. It was the peaceful quiet of someone who knew that help was just a phone call away. Thank you, Maya said to Ben, for all of it. For the storm, for the community, for everything. Ben smiled, but there was something sad in his eyes. Just remember that you're not alone anymore, okay? Whatever happens. Maya wondered why that sounded like goodbye. Spring came early that year, melting away the last traces of the storm that had changed everything. Maya found herself settling into a rhythm she had never expected. Tuesday mornings meant coffee with Helen's women's group, where she learned about everything from canning vegetables to local politics. Thursday afternoons were for the young mothers group, where she finally had people who understood the exhaustion and joy of raising babies, and Ben was always there, like a steady presence in the background of her new life. He fixed her leaky roof without being asked. He showed up with groceries when she mentioned running low on supplies. He built a small playground in her backyard so Lily would have somewhere safe to play as she got older. Maya told herself it was just friendship, just neighbors helping neighbors. But she couldn't ignore the way her heart sped up when she heard his truck in the driveway or how empty the cabin felt on the rare days when she didn't see him. The letter came on a Tuesday in March. Maya recognized Alex's handwriting immediately. Even though most of their communication had moved to emails and video calls, she opened it with shaking hands while Lily played on the floor nearby. My deployment is ending early, she read aloud to Lily, who babbled happily in response. I'll be home in 6 weeks instead of 3 months. I can't wait to see my girls and start our life together again. Maya should have been overjoyed. She had been counting down the days until Alex came home for over a year. But as she read the letter, all she could think about was how everything had changed since he left. She wasn't the same scared, lonely woman who had said goodbye to him at the airport. She had found her strength, her community, her own identity, and she had found Ben. That evening, Ben came by to check on a loose board on her front steps. Maya watched him work from the kitchen window, noting the careful way he moved, the concentration on his face. When he finished, she invited him in for coffee, something that had become their routine. "Alex is coming home early," she said without preamble as Ben settled into his usual chair, Ben's hand stilled on his coffee mug. "That's wonderful news," he said, but his voice sounded flat. "You must be excited." Maya studied his face, looking for some sign of what he was really thinking. "I am," she said carefully. "But I'm also scared." "Scared of what?" Maya took a deep breath. "Scared that I'm not the same person he married. Scared that the life I've built here won't fit with the life he wants. Scared that—" She trailed off, unable to finish the sentence. "Scared that I have feelings for you that I shouldn't have. Scared that saying goodbye to you will break my heart." Ben seemed to understand what she couldn't say. "Maya, what happened during the storm these past few months? It's been special, but your husband is coming home. Your real life is starting again." "This feels like my real life," Maya said quietly. Ben stood up abruptly and walked to the window. "That's exactly why I need to step back." Maya felt her stomach drop. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I won't be coming around anymore, not like this. Not for coffee every night and fixing things and playing with Lily." Ben's voice was strained. "It's not fair to any of us?" "Ben, you're my friend. You're part of our family now." Ben turned to face her, and Maya saw pain in his eyes that matched her own. "No, Maya, I'm the man who's falling in love with another man's wife." The words hung in the air between them like a bridge neither of them could cross. Maya felt her breath catch in her throat. Part of her wanted to deny it, to pretend that what had grown between them was just friendship. But she couldn't lie, not to Ben, not about this. "I know," she whispered. Ben closed his eyes. "I thought maybe if I didn't say it out loud, it wouldn't be real. But watching you with Lily, seeing you laugh with Helen, seeing you become this strong, confident woman, I realized I wasn't just helping a neighbor anymore. I was building a life that wasn't mine to build." Maya stood up and walked toward him, but Ben held up a hand to stop her. "Don't," he said gently. "Please don't make this harder than it already is. What if I don't want you to step back?" Maya asked, the words tumbling out before she could stop them. Ben's face crumpled with pain. "Maya, you're married. You have a baby. Your husband is coming home from serving his country. What kind of man would I be if I came between that?" Maya knew he was right. She knew that everything about this situation was complicated and wrong and impossible. But she also knew that Ben had saved her in ways that had nothing to do with that. Storm, he had helped her find herself, helped her become the person she was supposed to be. "I love Alex," Maya said, needing to say it out loud. "But Ben, what I feel for you ... can't exist," Ben finished firmly. "It has to not exist." They stood there in silence, the weight of unspoken feelings filling the space between them. Lily, oblivious to the adult drama playing out around her, crawled over to Ben's feet and pulled herself up to standing. Babbling happily, Ben looked down at her with such tenderness that Maya felt her heart break a little. He picked up Lily and held her close, and Maya could see him memorizing the moment. "I'm going to miss her," he said quietly. "I'm going to miss both of you." "You don't have to disappear completely," Maya said desperately. "Alex will understand. He'll be grateful for everything you've done for us." Ben shook his head. "It's better this way, cleaner. You need to focus on your family, and I need to figure out how to let go." As Ben prepared to leave that night, Maya felt like she was saying goodbye to more than just a friend. She was saying goodbye to the person she had become when she was with him, the version of herself that felt strong and valued and understood. "Will I see you around town?" she asked as he stood in the doorway. "Maybe," Ben said. "But things will be different." After he left, Maya sat in her quiet cabin and cried for the first time since the storm. She cried for the impossible situation they were in, for the timing that was all wrong, for the love that couldn't be spoken and the goodbye that felt like dying. Outside, spring was turning the world green again, promising new beginnings, But inside, Maya felt like something beautiful was ending before it ever really had a chance to begin. Alex came home on a Thursday morning in April, 3 days earlier than expected. Maya was in the garden with Lily when she heard the taxi pull up the driveway. Her heart started pounding as she saw her husband step out, looking thinner than when he left, but still strong in his desert camouflage uniform. "Surprise!" Alex called out, dropping his duffel bag and opening his arms wide. Maya ran to him, Lily bouncing in her arms, and felt herself enveloped in a hug that smelled like airports and foreign places. Alex was real, solid, warm, and for a moment Maya let herself sink into the familiarity of being his wife again. "Oh my God, look at her," Alex said, taking Lily gently. "She's huge and so beautiful." Maya watched Alex examine every inch of their daughter, marveling at her growth and development. Lily, who had been only 3 months old when he deployed, looked at him with curious but cautious eyes. "She doesn't remember me," Alex said with a sad smile. "She will," Maya assured him. "Give her time." As they walked toward the cabin, Alex stopped and looked around with surprise. "What happened to the porch?" Maya's stomach clenched. The porch had been one of Ben's first repairs after the storm. "It needed fixing," she said simply. "I had help from a neighbor." Inside, Alex noticed other changes too. The new shelving in the kitchen, the repaired window in the living room, the small improvements that Ben had made over the months. "You've been busy," Alex said. But there was something in his tone that made Maya nervous that evening after they had put Lily to bed and were sitting together on the couch. Alex brought up the changes again. "Maya, some of these repairs are pretty major. Who exactly helped you with all this?" Maya had been dreading this conversation. "His name is Ben Sullivan. He owns the ranch up the road. He helped us during that big storm in February." "Storm? What?" "Storm?" Maya realized that Alex didn't know about the worst weekend of her life. She had been trying to protect him, not wanting him to worry while he was deployed. Now she found herself telling him about the power outage, the dwindling supplies, the desperate fear she had felt. "Jesus, Maya," Alex said, pulling her close. "Why didn't you tell me any of this? What could you have done from Afghanistan?" Maya asked. "I didn't want you worrying about something you couldn't fix." Alex was quiet for a long time. "Tell me about this Ben." Maya felt her cheeks flush, hoping Alex couldn't see it in the dim light. "He saved our lives. He brought food and formula and a generator. He stayed through the storm to make sure we were okay. He stayed here, in the house?" "Alex, we would have died without him." Lily was starving and the roads were completely blocked. Alex nodded slowly. "I'm grateful to him. I want to meet him, to thank him properly." Maya's heart started racing. "He doesn't come around much anymore." "Why not?" The question hung in the air, and Maya struggled to find an answer that wasn't a complete lie. "He's busy with his ranch." Over the next few days, Alex threw himself into being a father and husband. He played with Lily for hours, trying to make up for lost time. He insisted on doing all the household repairs himself, even redoing some of Ben's work. Maya could see him trying to reclaim his place as the man of the house, but there were moments when Maya caught Alex watching her with a puzzled expression, like he was trying to figure out something that didn't quite add up. She had changed during his deployment, and they both knew it. She was more confident, more independent, more comfortable in her own skin. The scared young woman he had left behind was gone. "You seem different," Alex said one evening as they washed dishes together. "Different how?" "Stronger. More sure of yourself. It's good. It's just different." Maya wondered if Alex could sense that her transformation was connected to another man. Could he tell that someone else had helped her find her strength? The confrontation came a week after Alex's return. Maya was at Helen's women's group when Linda Patterson from the post office made an innocent comment. "Maya, I haven't seen Ben's truck at your place lately. Is everything okay?" Maya felt her face burn as every woman in the room turned to look at her. She could see the curiosity in their eyes and realized that the whole community had been watching her relationship with Ben. "Everything's fine," Maya said quickly. "My husband is home now. Helen gave her a knowing look but didn't say anything. After the meeting, she pulled Maya aside. "Honey, I know it's none of my business, but Ben's been different since Alex came home. He's back to keeping to himself, won't talk to anyone. We're all worried about him." That evening, Maya found herself telling Alex about the conversation. She tried to make it sound casual, but Alex wasn't fooled. "Maya, how close did you and this Ben get?" The direct question caught Maya off guard. She looked at her husband, this good man who had been serving his country while she was falling for someone else, and felt the weight of her guilt crushing down on her. "We became friends," she said carefully. "Good friends? Just friends?" Maya's silence was answer enough. Alex sat down heavily on the couch and put his head in his hands. "Did you sleep with him?" "No," Maya said quickly. "Alex, no. Nothing like that happened. But something happened." Maya sat down beside him, her hands shaking. "I have feelings for him. I never meant for it to happen, and we never acted on it. But yes, something happened." Alex was quiet for a long time. When he finally looked up, his eyes were full of pain, but not anger. "Do you love him?" Maya felt tears streaming down her face. "Alex, I love you. I chose you. I married you." "That's not what I asked." Maya took a shaky breath. "Yes," she whispered. "I think I do love him. But Alex, he's the one who walked away. He's the one who said we couldn't be together because you're my husband and Lily's father." Alex stared at her for a long moment, then unexpectedly he started to cry. "I'm sorry," he said. "I'm so sorry I wasn't here when you needed me. I'm sorry you went through that storm alone. I'm sorry another man had to save my family because I couldn't." Maya had expected anger, accusations, demands for her to choose. She hadn't expected this broken apology from a man who had been serving his country while she fell in love with someone else. "Alex, this isn't your fault, isn't it?" Alex looked at her with red eyes. "What kind of husband leaves his wife alone with a baby for a year? What kind of father misses the first year of his daughter's life?" Maya realized that Alex wasn't just dealing with her feelings for Ben. He was dealing with his own guilt about the deployment, his own fears about being a husband and father, his own struggles with coming home to a life that had moved on without him. "We need to figure this out," Alex said finally. "All of us, including Ben." Maya's heart stopped. "What do you mean?" "I mean I want to meet the man who saved my family. I want to thank him, and I want to understand what happened between all of us." Maya knew that whatever happened next would change everything. The truth was finally out, and there was no going back to pretending that the storm had only changed the weather. The meeting happened on a Saturday afternoon in May. Alex had insisted on going to Ben's ranch instead of asking him to come to the cabin. Maya sat in the passenger seat of their car, holding Lily and feeling like she might throw up from nervousness. Ben's ranch was bigger than Maya had imagined, with rolling green fields and a neat farmhouse surrounded by white fencing. Ben came out to meet them when he heard the car, and Maya could see the tension in his shoulders as Alex got out and walked toward him. "You must be Alex," Ben said, extending his hand. "I'm Ben Sullivan." Alex shook his hand and looked him directly in the eyes. "I'm here to thank the man who saved my family." Maya watched the two men size each other up. They were roughly the same height, but where Alex was compact and military precise, Ben was broader and moved with the easy confidence of someone comfortable in his own space. "I'm glad I could help," Ben said simply. "Maya and Lily are special people." "Yes, they are," Alex agreed. "That's why I wanted to meet you face to face." Ben gestured toward the porch. "Why don't we sit down and talk?" Maya found herself sitting between the two most important men in her life, holding the baby who had brought them all together. For a few minutes, they made small talk about the ranch and Alex's deployment. Then Alex got to the point. "Ben, I know what happened between you and my wife." Ben's face went very still. "Alex, I want you to know that we never—" "I know," Alex interrupted. "Maya told me everything. But I also know that you have feelings for her, and she has feelings for you." Maya held her breath, waiting for anger or accusations. Instead, Alex continued in a calm, measured voice. "I've been thinking about this for weeks, and I realize something. I don't have the right to be angry at either of you." Ben looked stunned. I don't understand. Alex leaned forward, his hands clasped together. I left my wife alone with a baby. For almost a year, I missed everything. Her first laugh, her first foods, learning to sit up. I missed Maya being scared and lonely and exhausted. I wasn't here when they needed me most. You were serving your country, Ben said quietly. I was, Alex agreed, and that was important. But it doesn't change the fact that when my family was in crisis, you were the one who showed up. You were the one who took care of them. You were the one who made sure they survived. Maya felt tears starting to form. This wasn't how she had imagined this conversation going. Alex turned to look at her. Maya, when I left for deployment, you were this scared kid who barely knew how to take care of herself, let alone a baby. The woman who came to pick me up at the airport is confident, strong, capable. You found yourself while I was gone. Alex. Maya started, but he held up a hand. Let me finish. Ben, I don't know exactly what happened between you and Maya during those months, but I can see what it did for her. You helped her become the person she was meant to be. Ben was staring at Alex like he couldn't believe what he was hearing. What are you saying? Alex took a deep breath. I'm saying that I think we all love each other in different ways, and maybe there's room for all of us in this story. Maya's heart stopped. Alex, what do you mean? I mean that Ben isn't just the man who saved your life. He's the man who helped raise our daughter when I couldn't. He's the man who made sure you weren't alone. As far as I'm concerned, that makes him family. Alex turned to Ben. I'd like you to be Lily's godfather, if you're willing. I want you to be part of her life, part of our lives. Not as the man who almost came between my wife and me, but as the man who made sure there was still a family for me to come home to. Ben's eyes filled with tears. Alex, I don't know what to say. Say yes, Alex said simply. Say you'll help us raise this little girl. Say you'll be the uncle she needs, the friend Maya needs, the brother I need. Maya looked between the two men and felt something shift in her chest. Not the romantic love she had felt for Ben, but something deeper and more complicated. A love that was big enough to hold all of them. What about the feelings? Maya asked quietly. What about what happened between Ben and me? Alex was quiet for a moment. What I've learned is that love isn't always simple. Sometimes it's messy and complicated and doesn't fit into neat categories, but that doesn't make it wrong. Ben looked at Maya, and she could see the question in his eyes. Could they really do this? Could they transform romantic love into something else, something that could exist alongside her marriage? I'd be honored to be Lily's godfather, Ben said finally, if you're sure this is what you want. Alex smiled, the first genuine smile Maya had seen from him since he came home. I want my daughter to grow up knowing that there are people in this world who will always show up for her. People who will drive through storms to make sure she's safe. I can't think of anyone better to teach her that than the man who already did it once. 3 months later, Maya stood in the community center watching Alex and Ben work together to set up tables for Lily's first birthday party. The whole community was there, Helen with her endless supply of casseroles, Carlos with a hand-carved wooden toy he had made for Lily, Dr. Williams keeping an eye on all the children running around. Maya watched Lily take her first wobbly steps, moving between the 3 adults who loved her most. She toddled toward Alex, who scooped her up and spun her around. Then she reached for Ben, who kissed her forehead and made her giggle. Finally, she crawled into Maya's lap, content to be surrounded by her family. Look at that, Helen said, coming to stand beside Maya. That little girl is going to grow up knowing what it means to be truly loved. Maya nodded, watching Alex and Ben laugh together as they tried to figure out how to hang streamers. It hadn't been easy, learning to navigate their new relationship. There had been awkward moments and difficult conversations and times when the old feelings threatened to complicate everything, but they had figured it out, the 3 of them. They had learned that love could be bigger than romance, that families could be built in unexpected ways, that sometimes the best solutions were the ones nobody saw coming. As the sun set over the community center and Lily fell asleep in Maya's arms, surrounded by the people who had become their chosen family. Maya thought about that night during the storm when she had opened her door to a stranger carrying food and hope. She had been looking for someone to save her. Instead, she had found something better. She had found a community, a purpose, and a love that was strong enough to weather any storm that came their way. Ben caught her eye across the room and smiled, and Maya smiled back. Not with the desperate love of those winter months, but with the peaceful contentment of someone who knew that sometimes the best endings were really just new beginnings in disguise.